Major Marco.
At least a decade ago, I acquired the rights from United Artists of Manchurian Candidate, which my father co-owned with this studio. They together produced the original Manchurian Candidate, starring my dad and Larry Harvey and Angela Lansbury, directed by John Frankenheimer and written by George Axelrod. My father was best when he was given the best material. He was self-motivated to go out and get the rights to the Richard Condon book, which is why we're all here today. I finally said to him, what do you really think about doing it again? And he said, I don't think there's a better idea.
Smile if you like.
The movie I wanted to make was a paranoid thriller. Denzel Washington unraveling, going crazy, even as he tries to regain his own idea of what his sanity is. It's also a paranoid political thriller, and I think in an election year, a picture set against a backdrop of a presidential race, to me, brings a lot of extra fun to the party.
We tried to surprise people, I think, as the film unfolded. We tried to do what Condon does in his original novel, which is to utilize many different genres. He's writing a thriller, he's writing a comedy, he's writing a political satire, he's writing a social satire, and he's writing a Greek tragedy, all at the same time. I think both Jonathan and I were tickled by the possibilities inherent in that we could move from one genre to the next and back again.
Another big challenge that we were faced with was somehow justifying the title Manchurian Candidate. In the first movie and in the book, it refers to Manchuria as a hotbed of communism, and that ties into the notion of world domination, aspirations towards world domination on the part of communism. Communism is no longer the big global threat. I guess we all have our own ideas of what the current big global threat is.
Mark.
Eleanor.
It occurred to me that a kind of corporate totalitarianism was probably the new philosophy that was scariest.
Raymond, this is J.B. Johnston from Manchurian Global.
Hi, how are you?
I think that all of us who made the movie were really fascinated by the way U.S. government intersects with such an extraordinary intimacy with multinational corporations that profit from war and chaos. And we discover that so many of the world leaders, the people who make the decisions that impact on the entire population of the planet, they're the same people.
The private equity fund Manchurian Global, your mother's primary political benefactor for the past 15 years.
Oh, come on, Tom.
So we name our multinational corporation Manchurian Global.
If it's not true, I will see you impeached on the floor of the Senate and bury you.
Eleanor Shaw was the big point of departure for me, where this new movie really separated itself from the original movie and from Condon's novel. It was another thought that I had instinctively from the very beginning, which was that in 2004, Eleanor Shaw was not going to be the stage mother behind the scenes pushing her son or her husband to greater glory. She was going to be a force in her own right.
I will do whatever is necessary to protect America.
And probably a woman of a generation that just can't quite make it to the top. She hit the glass ceiling, partially because she's a woman and partially because she knows where so many bodies are buried, and so many of them were buried by her.
This is about my son and the future of this country.
I think that the enemy in the movie is the idea that there's a better way to run America or run the world. There's a more efficient political idea, and that in the hands of someone as damaged and as scary as Eleanor Shaw, disaster could ensue. I don't see Manchurian Global as the enemy in the film. I think Eleanor Shaw is the enemy in the film.
Why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire?
The triggering of the brainwashing, which in the book and the original movie is this wonderful idea of playing solitaire, and then turns into the Queen of Diamonds, and there's this whole allusion to his mother, and was just not an area that we wanted to go into. We wanted to find something new, and Jonathan Demme had this great idea that we'd strip it all away and make it simply a repetitive verbal cue.
Sergeant Raymond Shaw.
And then, in addition, he had this idea that instead of becoming deadpan zombies, that the effect of the brainwashing would actually heighten your awareness. You would become, it's almost like they're taking ecstasy or something. It's like he's been transported to another place with greater powers. He's smarter than he was before. He's happier than he was before, and the light comes up.
Doctor, what's this part for?
This is basically, these are the three, this is waiting to tighten it. This is the screws that goes into the skull.
Is this missing a screw
Right, it's
thing?
missing like this.
We need another.
Yeah.
So-
Well, actually, one is missing.
Now, when
the
you
one
say
is-
screw, you don't mean it gets screwed into the
it does.
skull.
It does.
Okay. A lot of research went into the area of brain manipulation and how can you, quote unquote, brainwash somebody. So we do the procedure in real life and it's a success. How soon can this guy get up off the table and go about his business?
10 minutes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Good. Lots of new techniques are being used to alter people's consciousness, you know, anything from drugs to genomic reconfiguration to implanting devices that transmit signals to the brain. This technology is being used to really help people, and in the wrong hands, like in our story, it could be used to damage people, so it's interesting.
I've always been a Jonathan Demme fan. There's a slightly kinky edge. There's a slightly over-the-top take that is really, really exciting to me. That we wouldn't be watching the story if it wasn't slightly bigger than life. It wouldn't be interesting to us unless it wasn't a little bit better, a little bit funnier, a little bit sadder, a little bit darker, a little bit stranger. I think that is sort of what he brings to films. He has that eye, that he sees things in a strange way.
That's a print. Thank you. Let's go again. All right, here we go. He brings positive energy. He makes I know he makes this actor feel like I can try anything. He's one of the sweetest people I know.
Jonathan?
Yes?
Do you want me to go almost right away after? He's somebody who has his eye on everything, absolutely everything. Working with Jonathan made me know I could never be a director. Never, never, never. I mean, he just knows what's going on in 15 different directions in front of him and behind his head.
Okay, ready? It's too good to be true. We got
background and
action!
He embraced the idea of information overload and brought to it visual and auditory stuff that I had only suggested, that he ran with that idea.
There's a scene with Denzel and Liev that Jonathan has set it behind some mottled glass with a lot of activity in the back. He's got people running through in colored shirts, and the scene is all shot in sort of close-ups, and what you get is the disorder in this man's mind. It's all happening, it's sort of abstractly written on the background.
The camera is constantly moving. It's constantly moving in different directions, and the images on the screen behind the Secure Tomorrow keeps blipping up like some hypnotic suggestion. I think that Jonathan Demme and Taka Fujimoto consciously made a decision to turn that scene into a dream. I always wanted the movie to unfold almost as if Marco was dreaming the whole thing. So, for example, the scene in which Raymond walks through his hotel room and the wall opens up and he goes into this weird room where they drill his head. I conceived it as, yes, these are based on real medical techniques, but it's also a dream world. And it could be what actually happened, or it could be a dream.
Came to apologize, sir. Raymond, what are you doing?
It was incredibly challenging to come up with a new way to kill Senator Jordan and his daughter. I didn't want to go anywhere near the old movie. It was one of the places where I really thought about what had been done in the old movie and how beautifully done it was.
Raymond, what are you doing?
Daddy, what is it? Raymond, no! Raymond, darling!
I didn't want to go anywhere near that. So I wanted it to feel real. I wanted it to be in the fog because I felt that that's where the movie was at that moment, was everything was kind of in a fog. I wanted it to be in the water because it was the idea that characters were drowning, literally and figuratively. I wanted something that was beautiful and simple. My job is just to suggest it on the page. It was Jonathan Demme and Tak Fujimoto who had to actually make it work.
Tak and I have been working together since 1974, and he's shot, I think, all but one of the dramatic movies that I've done since then, which is probably about a dozen or so. And I know what his agenda is. He's there to serve the performances and serve the actors and make them look right, give them the lighting that will help communicate what they want to communicate. He knows how to film eyes, he knows how to film skin. He also is a master of mood lighting. He comes up with fantastic mood concepts, the way he'll light a scene, and he manages to get these sometimes antagonistic goals to work very nicely together, serving the actors even as he's serving the mood.
Well, it's official. CBS News now projects Robert Arthur and Raymond Shaw to be the next President and Vice President of the United States.
When I started writing the end, I tried to create a rhythm using all of the pieces of the story that had been set up. The end hopefully just tumbles. If you've done it right, I find the images just tumble on top of each other. I think that two things happen at the end. One is Raymond realizes that he can't let this thing happen. Marco has convinced him that there must be a way. I think what's going through Raymond's mind is that he can't live, he can't survive. And it's not so much because he's got an implant in his head as because of what his mother has done to him. It's a classically Greek idea that he's damaged goods because he's corrupted, his soul is corrupted. And because of that, he has to sacrifice himself, and his mother has to be sacrificed. When Marco's in the booth, he is a soldier. He's doing what he was trained to do. There's no emotion in it, but the minute that Raymond goes the wrong direction, the minute that the plan goes slightly off kilter, even under the control of the implant, he's wrestling with the possibility that things are not what they appear to be. He hesitates, and then the president-elect's wife walks in front of him. For Marco, it's all about the precision of it. It has to be exactly what it needs to be, or he won't do it. And once those two events occur, Marco too reaches down for that thing that he says exists, that thing that they couldn't touch.
I wanted to be part of it because it's a good script. It's a good idea that suggests a really powerful and intriguing and interesting and frightening what if this were true? What if things like this could happen?
Jon Voight at one point accuses Meryl's character of wanting to help these power brokers get the first fully owned and operated vice president of the United States in the White House. And there are many today who might say, well, wait a minute, didn't that already happen?
I think the movie is a bit of a mirror. Some people have said it's a Rorschach test. I think it's more of a mirror of who we are and what we've become.
It does say, hey, take a look around. Just don't accept everything that you see.
What's fascinating is that we do have, I think, like a really terrific picture. But can any movie, can any piece of fiction compete with the characters that are really in the White House, in these positions of power right now? All fiction pales by comparison. I think our only competition is really like reality.
Sergeant Raymond Shaw.
Yes.
Listen.